Okay, cool. Folks are still trickling in, but no time to waste. Welcome, everybody. This is our August demo day. I'm super fortunate to be here with a great cast. I am Eric Cox. I'm a member of the Netcapital team. I'm joined with three issuers currently raising on the Netcapital platform. That includes Invicta Water, The Dude Is Legit Film, and Hive Skill. This should be a really engaging conversation. Couple quick housekeeping items. Please do use the Q&A feature built into Zoom. I know there's also a chat feature that I just told you guys about. Feel free to hop in there and share what's going on, what you're thinking. But please do use the Q&A feature for any questions. That way we can answer as many of them as possible, and it's much easier to track them through that feature. And please do ask your questions. We want this to be as interactive as possible. We're really here for you, the attendees, to learn about these offerings. So please do engage with the Q&A. We have about an hour allocated for this. We're going to cover all three in that time. So please do think about your questions. We're going to go in the order. Sorry, I'm logging in here. We're going to go in the order that it was presented here on Zoom. So we're going to start off with you, Steve, with Invicta Water. The Dude Is Legit from there. And we're going to bring it home strong with you, Lori, with Hive Skill. So with all that being said, please do stick around for all of them. I think they're all going to be engaging, but that's our order today. Steve, I'm going to go and hand it over to you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're building with Invicta Water? Thank you.
Sure, I appreciate it. So I'm Steve Olsensky. I'm one of the founders of Invicta Water, and we are. Sorry, let me get the screen shared here. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak with everyone here today, and I definitely want to say thank you to Eric and to Netcapital for giving us the opportunity to participate in today's demo day. What we do at Invicta Water is we have developed a process to capture and destroy a toxic chemical that's called PFAS. And PFAS is something that's been in the news quite a bit lately, but you might not be too familiar with what it is. It's an organic molecule, a synthetic organic molecule that's been around for close to 100 years. It has a number of uses that are beneficial, but it's been found to have some harmful health effects. And it is found in everything from cosmetics, textiles, cookware, to even packaging for food and beverages. And this organic chemical has a fluorine carbon bond in it, and that's among one of the strongest bonds that exists. And what that means is once you make this chemical, there's really no natural way to destroy it. So as it is prevalent in all these different materials, as it's been around for almost 100 years, it's accumulated everywhere. It's found in things like rainwater in the Australian outback. It's been found in Arctic ice. So it is a problem that persists across the globe, not just in the US. But because it doesn't go away, it accumulates in your body, in animals, in the environment, in plants. And as it gets into our body, that accumulation over time causes harmful health effects, birth defects, cancers, a reduction in fertility rates, and it has been believed to be a cause of death in a number of cases. Here in the US, more than 83% of the waterways are contaminated with PFAS. That means close to 150 million people in the United States are exposed to harmful levels of this toxic chemical. And it doesn't break down. And there are some people that you can do things like you can use activated carbon and some filters to pull this material out of water. But ultimately what happens is those materials have to be disposed of somewhere, often in dumps in other places, and that will result in these chemicals leaching back into the water supplies. So there's a definite need to remove these from our environment. In fact, the EPA has published regulations for the control of these chemicals that are going to get it implemented next year. So people have to do something. And what we've been able to do at Invicta Water is we've partnered with a company, BN Nano, who's also had offerings on Netcapital in the past. And they've developed a unique material that's made out of boron nitride that has been proven to be able to capture these chemicals, but at the same time, destroy them by breaking the bonds of the PFAS. So it is one of the only ways right now in the world to both capture and destroy this at the same time. And when you destroy it, we're destroying it into things that are completely non-toxic and naturally occurring. A little bit of CO2 and a little bit of fluorine. And both of those compounds can be very easily handled in the water stream. So we're not creating something that needs to be disposed of anywhere else. But we've taken this a bit further. We've thought about this from a engineering aspect or from a cost and implementation. So what we've done is we've come up with a process that's based completely on existing technologies that are a fraction of current uses, in such a way that uses very, very little energy. You combine these materials with UV light. So essentially the energy required to power an LED light bulb is combined with these boron nitride materials to capture and destroy these chemicals. So this is something that we're really excited about. And what we have is we're well beyond the laboratory here, right? The investment in Invicta Water is going directly towards commercialization of this technology. We don't need to do any development on the experimental side. We don't need to do anything for the materials. We don't need to prove it works. We know it works. The US Navy has demonstrated that it works. There are a number of universities that have published their results using boron nitride materials going back to the 2015 and after that shows this works. So what we've done is we've taken this from the laboratory and we're ready for a pilot. We're currently in discussions with the North Carolina General Assembly to get some non-dilutive funding to install our first set of equipment at a water treatment plant in the Piedmont Triad region of North Carolina. This is going to be designed to handle 500,000 to 800,000 gallons of water per day. So this is something that we're ready to do right now. We're also in conversations with our first industry partners, and we're targeting food and beverage, things like microbreweries, water, energy drinks, hydroponics, hydroponic farming, all these different things that are introducing products that will be ingested by folks can be completely PFAS free with what we're doing. And again, what we have is we have a unique material that's combined a little bit of UV energy and completely destroys these toxic chemicals in place. And as we're preparing for these pilots, our work doesn't stop there. We are continuously improving what we do. And I saw a question pop up. When will we have filters for homes? We're working on that, but our first step is to get into the municipal water treatment centers. But to get to homes, one of the things you have to do is you've got to get your costs down, and you have to be able to destroy these things rapidly. And compared to our first generation materials, our crystals, which are probably in the 3 to 6 months time period ago, we are destroying PFAS at more than 3 times the rate from when we first started. So we are already having significant improvements in how we do that. And that translates directly into a low cost. For a municipality, we're talking significantly less than a fraction of a penny. On an industrial scale, when you start talking about food and beverages, again, less than half a cent per gallon is the cost that we are going to add. And this cost goes directly to destroying this material. So you could have this energy drink or this bottled water or these plants with a PFAS-free label, which we're pretty excited about. You can have PFAS-free water coming out of your municipality, so you're not discharging these toxins into the rivers or the streams, and you're not having them sent directly to your home as part of the drinking water. So what we're doing at Invicta, we're really excited about this. This is a unique opportunity, right? We have found a way to pull these toxic chemicals out of water, destroy them at exactly the same time. So we have a continuous flow, which is very cost effective, uses very low energy, takes up a very small footprint. So it should be able to be installed at any industry site or any municipality here in the United States or really across the globe. We're really excited to again be a part of Netcapital. The benefit of the crowd goes well beyond just the investments. And obviously, we invite you to invest in our company, but we also invite you to reach out to us. If you have a company that you know of that could benefit from what we're doing, or if you have an application or something that you think could use Invicta Water's technology, reach out to us. Please let us know. We would love to start that conversation, and we are looking forward to commercializing this technology really just as fast as we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that background, Steve. It's always a pleasure having you on. Good questions coming in. Thanks for answering the first one. Another question: do municipalities report PFAS in tap water, or how do you get that data?
Some do, some don't. So as of today, there are no direct requirements to do so, but there are a lot of communities that do publish that, and there are a lot of reports that you can find out there that talk about the PFAS contamination levels around the country. Burlington, North Carolina, which is where Invicta Water is located, they actually do report it. They are having some challenges with the river that runs through the community, so they've been publishing that data for quite a while. But it is pretty readily available. The EPA has a number of good locations on their website where you can see the information, and we have links to a lot of that on our offer page as well.
It does feel like there's kind of maybe renewed, or maybe it's entirely new consciousness around PFAS and the potential dangers to the human body. is there any insight into why you think that's happening now? My understanding is these forever chemicals have been potentially in our systems for quite a while now. Any insight to why now it's like there's a collective consciousness around it?
Yeah, I think there was certainly there was a and again we have a lot of links to some of these articles and some of the things I'll talk about directly on our offer page. Also on our website, we have many more links to things. But there was a movie, Dark Waters, that came out a few years ago that talked about some of the challenges. I believe that was from West Virginia. Things like the Philadelphia Phillies, Tug McGraw had a rare disease that they believe that he got as a result from the turf at Veterans Stadium, which was coated by PFAS. And it turns out there's a number of Phillies that have had some significant health problems from PFAS. So there have been a lot of stories that have had a lot of publicity around some of the more tragic end of things. Unfortunately, it seems it takes bad things to get people's attention, but there have been a lot of studies on health effects for decades, really, of these materials. But now you're finding it proliferation into the environment everywhere. There's every day, if you just Googled PFAS, you're going to see articles from, say, Michigan and Ohio, where they have warnings from the state, don't eat the fish that you catch or don't eat the deer that you're hunting because of PFAS contamination. You're seeing things where people used to get sludge from waste treatment plants to put on their crops or to put on their fields to feed their cattle. And they're seeing that the PFAS goes from that sludge to the grass, to the cows, and they've had to destroy, some of their crops or some of their animals. So it is starting to be a challenge. And there's also a tremendous amount of litigation right now. Billions and billions of dollars is being fought over to remediate and to compensate folks that have been impacted from PFAS.
So that helps. So a little bit of the media is kind of catching up to a problem that we've seen for a little while, and then some just kind of really historic articles and stories, anecdotal, that kind of mobilize folks. Thanks for sharing those details. Can you talk a little bit about these health effects? I know, I think some of them are being researched. There's some that are like real kind of statistically correlated, but can you talk about some of the health effects from consuming PFAS?
Yeah, what they found is certainly there's birth defects. There's challenges with birth defects. There's a decreased fertility rate that has been seen for this. There is a higher distribution of some rare diseases and some rare health effects that are accumulated around areas that have a lot of contamination. And military bases is one area where they have a lot of challenges with their water. This material is in things like firefighting foams and other things that help make things waterproof in other areas. So there is a lot of this in the military communities. So you see ads, even I was in Western Pennsylvania recently, and they actually have ads on TV about if you've been impacted with any of these diseases and you think you have got it through PFAS, contact these law firms. So it's something that's, constantly being litigated right now, but everywhere from rare brain diseases to rare cancers to birth defects, you're finding problems with your endocrine systems. It's a wide variety of problems that we're just now really beginning to learn about as they're just starting to have controlled studies in some of these areas where there is a high level of PFAS contamination.
No, I think that's super interesting. And as soon as you see kind of big mass tort liability, there's these big litigation class actions, and you talk about these specific diseases that tend to come from PFAS, it looks like there might be some signature diseases. There might be like an asbestos level situation here where the types of things you see are just so unique and tend to occur outside of the norm. So I think we're going to see a lot more of this, and I'm grateful that you're doing such good work to help move this forward here. Some more great questions coming through. Can you talk a little bit about the regulatory environment for PFAS or water treatment in general?
Yeah, it's an interesting environment right now. So what the EPA has done is they have called out for regulation on, I believe it's 4 specific compounds. Now there's thousands of chemicals that are under the PFAS umbrella, but the EPA has chosen to pick sort of the 4 most prevalent and chose to regulate it specifically for the drinking water community right now, the drinking water industries. So what that means is industry can still use it. You can still use it in other places. But for those 4 chemicals, starting next year, we believe they will say that if you are a municipality, you must control PFAS below a certain level for drinking water. They've also said that they are going to implement regulations industry by industry. So wastewater might be next. Then they may go into pharmaceuticals or semiconductors or other areas, but it's going to be a challenge because these are necessary compounds. They are beneficial in a number of ways. So it's going to be almost impossible to just ban them across the board. So it has to be implemented in a way that not only allows people to do the things that are necessary, but also it doesn't make much sense if they implement regulations that make water so expensive that no one can afford to have drinking water anymore. So it's an interesting balance of what they try to do. And what we've done at Invicta Water is we've really changed that cost benefit analysis. Our technology is so much more efficient and at such a lower cost that the argument of it's just going to be too expensive to implement this in our city should go away. But it's going to be a long, drawn out process. We believe that litigation will probably drive industry and other aspects of this quicker because people are today believing they want to be more of a conscious capitalist kind of society, doing the right thing while running a business. So what we believe is the municipalities will probably act quickly after the EPA does their implementation, but we will work with industry partners that have made a conscious decision to do the right thing.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I know your team is tracking that very closely. And I know you're really kind of closely integrated with all sorts of different municipalities at the kind of state, local, federal level, keeping track.
Absolutely. And international as well.
Great point. Great. Yeah. Water's not a uniquely American issue, I guess. Good point there, Steve. Okay, cool. Other great questions coming in. Thank you so much. I'm gonna remind folks I did add a link to this offering directly into the chat, and I have enabled chat now. Sorry, that was disabled earlier, so feel free to participate in chat. But please do continue to use Q&A though; it makes it so much easier. But chat can just be for fun. And I did add a link directly into the offering where you can learn more, review the offering page, and if you're so inclined, you can invest, of course. Last couple questions, and we'll transition to the other offerings here. Are you ready for the pilot? And what do you imagine happens after the pilot run?
Yeah, we're ready. We've actually we've walked the facility, so we've walked the site of where we're going to do this in North Carolina, and we are really just waiting for the go ahead for the approval to get that started. And we're quite excited. It's a water treatment plant that discharges water directly into one of the rivers in North Carolina. They do about 5 million gallons of water per day. We're going to start treating somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 to 800,000 gallons of water per day just to show that it works. But this is we're ready to go. The system's designed. We're prepared. It's really just a matter of getting it started. Well, we believe if we can get this going, in the next 4 to 6 weeks, which we're very hopeful that before the end of the year, this thing will be up and running and we'll be able to have really good data. The industry partners, because they're at a much smaller scale, we could probably get that going a little bit quicker. So we're talking to people in North Carolina, we're talking to some folks in California, and some others along the East Coast to get this first application in place. It's likely going to be a microbrew or maybe a hydroponic farm. So we're quite excited about having the opportunity to give some of these customers that first chance to have that PFAS-free label on their products.
Yeah, super impactful. And I hope that does drive demand in that direction. It's critical. Somebody did recommend a possible partnership. I'm not sure if you saw that in the chat, but I went ahead and copied it. I'll save it. And
I did see that. So thank you very much. And like I said, that's the power of the crowd right there. We've seen a tremendous benefit of people reaching out to us with comments, questions, things we haven't thought of, people we haven't met, companies we haven't heard of. So we welcome that. And you can reach us through the offer page. We like to respond to any questions that are asked as quickly as possible. But feel free to reach out to info@Invicta Water at any time as well.
Absolutely, don't hesitate to get in touch. You guys have been super responsive. Last question, we're going to transition over. Oh, someone just snuck one more in. Last 2 questions, then we're going to transition over. How does Invicta Water compare to other methods of removing PFAS? Excuse me.
Yeah, great question. So, one of the I say brute force methods is you just create massive amounts of volumes of filled with activated carbon, and it just very slowly will trickle over these things. The chemicals will get captured in the porosity of the carbon, and over time you can remove them. But what you have though is then you have dirty charcoal that you have to dispose of. So there's a plan in Wilmington, North Carolina that spent about 40 million in capital to dig holes to fill it with carbon. And over a 10-year period, they're probably going to spend overall about $100 million to do something that doesn't really work. We could do it for probably 10 to 15% of that total cost with almost no OpEx. Other applications like reverse osmosis or some of the unique applications like supercritical fluids require a tremendous amount of energy. They're typically at elevated temperatures and pressures. So the cost to run those is very, very high. And things like reverse osmosis and some of those, you also still have membranes and things that are contaminated that you have to dispose of. Again, what we do requires no heating, no pressure. So it's ambient room and temperature. It can be done again with just a little bit of UV energy, which is about equivalent of a UV light bulb. So it's very low cost and it destroys it in place. We do not create anything that's toxic. We don't have to do anything that has to be treated or handled further. We take care of these chemicals in place and we take that forever chemical and we forever destroy it. So we've completely eradicated it.
I love that. Forever no more. Awesome.
Yep.
And
then I see the question about the PFAS-free label. That's not we don't have it yet because we don't have a bottled water partner yet, but we are as we talk to folks in food and beverage. That's something that we will certainly work together to develop, and we are really excited to finally get that first industry partner started, so that we can have a PFAS-free bottled water.
So for folks in the crowd with water relationships or bottlers or distributors, it sounds like that's
Absolutely.
one more opportunity to coordinate with the Invicta Water team.
Microbreweries, energy drinks, all the things that are popping up around right now. We would love to be able to participate and help make their products even better.
Love that. Love that. And somebody says, any thoughts on going on Shark Tank? And then we're going to head over to the next offering.
Not really. I think this is kind of what we're doing here, right? I think when you go on Shark Tank, you immediately give up equity, whether or not you are successful. What we like to do is we like to raise only the amount of money that we absolutely need so that we can maintain all the value, as much value as possible for our shareholders. And, we believe what we're doing here today is going to be enough to get us going once we get some of these other industry and municipality partners in place. So we're really excited to grow this business and add some of your investors to our team.
Yeah, that sounds great. Sorry, would have been a great episode, but that was a fantastic answer. So thank you so much for those thoughtful questions from the attendees. Really appreciate that. And thank you so much, Steve, with Invicta Water, for telling us about what you're building here and trying to solve the PFAS issue. As I mentioned earlier, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. As always, Invicta Water is actively raising on the Netcapital platform. I just added a link to that back into the chat, but you can go directly to netcapital.com and search Invicta, or you can go to netcapital.com/companies/Invicta Water, where you can go directly to the offering page, review more materials, engage with the discussion board there. And if you're so inclined, you can invest. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. We're going to keep the party moving here. Dan Clemens with The Dude is Legit. Why don't you come on in and tell us a little bit about what you're building here?
All right. Thanks, Eric. I'm going to share my screen here as well. Give me a moment to do that. And I guess I'll kick this off and I'll ask a somewhat rhetorical question. So what's your favorite baseball movie? Think back over the last 10, 20, 30 years. What's your favorite baseball movie? And if you're like most people that answer that, your answer is that whatever film you come up with, it's going to be at least a decade old. Field of Dreams, Bull Durham, A League of Their Own, Major League, The Sandlot. Those are all fan favorites, but they've aged, and a lot of them have aged well. But Moneyball, which is maybe one of the most recent baseball movies, is over a decade old. It was 2011 when it came out. And so what we're doing with The Dude is Legit is we feel it's really time for a new baseball movie. And so not only are we giving fans one, we're giving them a chance to own a piece of it. And so why is there this gap? Why has it been 10, 12 years since we've had a good baseball movie? Part of it is we think that the current Hollywood movie making model is flawed. Here on the top, and the traditional model is that you've got a studio and they've got a big pot of money and they've got a creative team attached. Usually they have a director that has a 3 or 4 or 5 picture deal already attached. And they make one big bet. They say, let's go make a movie. And so they go find a script, try to attach a distributor. Maybe the distributor is part of the studio. And then they say, I hope we can find an audience. And the reality is, Forbes reports that 80% of studio movies fail to make money. They don't turn a profit. So in baseball terms, they're 200 hitters. The problem is that they don't really know what we want. With The Dude is Legit, we're flipping this. We're flipping this model, and it's really a fan-owned model. And so we're starting with a script, a story, a good story. I'll tell you about that in just a moment. And it's very connected to a baseball audience. So script and audience are woven together, and we're asking baseball fans to each make a small bet. And the belief is that people like us will enjoy a unique story. And once we raise some money, we are then going to go find the creative team and the distributor that have an ability to make a really good movie and enthusiasm to create a baseball movie. And so in that way, we're bringing the audience, the script, and the creative team all together. And this, one more point about the traditional model. I was at a movie festival over the weekend in Reno. And a term that kept getting thrown about was this idea of marvelized. We've been marvelized by the big blockbuster comic book movies. There's a problem with those. While some of those do hit, it costs them $200, $300, sometimes $400 million to make. That means that it's going to, by the time they do their marketing, they're $1 billion. They need $1 billion of revenue before they even turn a profit. And this model is killing theaters because if they have $300 million to invest, they're investing in one film as opposed to spending 15, 20, $30 million on a lot of smaller films. And that gives theaters something to show other than one big blockbuster from now and then. So again, we're starting with a story. And this is the story of a true story. It's based on a true story of a 51-year-old making his professional baseball debut. And we're layering on top of that this idea of the baseball gods. And if you've been around the game of baseball at all, you've heard the term baseball gods. Well, their role is to make sure that everybody gets what's coming to them. So a foul ball that just barely goes foul, or did it just go fair? Did it get chalk? The fly ball that is caught or just barely gets over the fence for a home run. Baseball people believe the baseball gods have a hand in that. And in our story here, they make a mistake early on in this player's career that causes the ending of his career, a shoulder injury. And it causes a dysfunctional relationship with the game that plays out through the film. The baseball gods realize they have to fix this mistake and make it good. So it started out as a baseball story, but it's really evolved into much more than that. And if you think about the good sports stories, sports movies that you like, the good baseball movies, they're really less about the sports action and really more about what does the story tell us about being human, about how does it help us grow, how does it help us evolve, how does it help us learn. And so as a result of this story moving in that direction, won several screenplay awards, been best of in 3 and a finalist in 2 very recently. So there's a lot of good external validation competing against all sorts of dramas, and these were in the drama category of, sports film is actually competing against those. So we feel really strong about the story. Next is, okay, if we've got a good audience and a good story, we need to find the right people to help make this movie. And that's not going to be me. My role as executive producer is to be the project manager, make sure that we've got the funding in place and the right people in place to go make this movie. So the hope is that here soon we're going to raise enough money that we can start talking to talent and the creative team and get a director and some producers on board that, again, have a talent for making movies and can tell an emotional story and probably have an understanding or a passion for the game. We'll also have a baseball advisory team of former pros that make sure that we're authentic. Nothing kills a sports story worse than having bad sports action or wrong terminology. We're going to make sure that is right. Another question that comes up quite a bit is, well, is this a low budget production? And the answer is no. Our target shooting budget for this is going to be somewhere between 5 and 8 million, with another 2 million for marketing. And we believe that is kind of a sweet spot, for that we can get some really good talent, some recognizable talent, maybe even some big name talent to play roles in the film, without completely breaking the bank. And at that level, making money on the film becomes a lot easier. We don't need $1 billion in revenue to make a profit. So some of the variables that go into that are talent, marketing, and what location and what state incentives would be available. And just to wrap up, how big is the baseball market? It's huge. 64.5 million people went to Major League Baseball games last year. You can kind of look at this slide. There are a lot of people that are fans, and there are a lot of people that are active in the game as well. And you don't have to do too much back of the envelope calculations on your own to kind of figure out, well, at an $8 million budget, does this have a chance of making money? And we believe really strongly that it does. And so with that, I'm going to turn it open to questions and comments and ideas.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing about that. And then, I think you were talking about the story, and you said you were going to go into the story a little bit more. So I kind of want to give you a chance to share more details if you're comfortable with that. And I feel like this is really a story of resilience, and I feel like every person can really relate to it. So can you tell us a little bit more about the impetus for the story and the background, just with no spoilers?
Yeah. So maybe a little bit of a spoiler is that the movie is actually a little bit autobiographical here. I was that 51-year-old that had the opportunity to make my professional debut at 51, tore up my shoulder in college, 3 surgeries, this dysfunctional relationship with the game, couldn't be close to it because it reminded me of what I lost, couldn't be away from it either because love the game. And so in 2019, got this unexpected call from a buddy of mine who was coaching an independent professional team in the Pecos League and said, "Hey, Dan, you want to come play pro ball?" I said, "Bill, you're about 30 years too late, buddy." And I actually thought I was being punked on the call. I thought I was going to hear giggling in the background of my buddies. Turns out I got to fly out to Bakersfield, California, make a start on the mound. Actually took a shutout into the 5th inning, playing against these 22, 23-year-old studs. As I struck a guy out for the second time who had hit a home run. Actually, in the photo behind me is the field, and that's me walking off the field after striking him out. As I got to the dugout, one of my teammates yelled to the bench, "The dude is legit." And so that became the formation of the story. Fast forward into COVID, looking for some things to do, had told this story to a number of people, and they said, "Gosh, that'd be a great book. That'd be a great movie. You ought to do something with that." I got my sister Lori involved, who a very successful screenwriter, and the two of us have partnered on putting the screenplay together. And at this point, anxious to turn it over to a creative team to help bring this to the big screen, and excited. The more that I tell this story to people, you see their eyes light up of, really, we get a chance to own this movie. We baseball fans get to be owners of a baseball movie. That's really pretty cool. And we feel that at a minimum investment of $125, there's really no barrier to entry that most baseball fans can afford to do that. And if you look at the price of what it takes to go to a major league game, you can buy a lot of shares in in the movie for the price of one baseball game.
I did just see an article. I'll share it with you when I find it after this, about the inflated price of baseball games over time. So, and it's not just the tickets, it's the parking, it's the concessions, everything has gone up pretty significantly. Thanks for going deeper into that. I remember the first time you told me this story, I still get chills a little bit each time, as a not an athlete nearly to your regard, but love playing games and sports, and it's super impressive to hear your comeback story. There are 2 questions that have come in, and then I have a couple more that I want to pepper in. The
Great.
first one I think is probably really, really important. When will is there, and again, this is kind of a asterisk in that there's no certainty of exits here, but can you talk a little bit about potential return on investment, what that might look like for investors in this round?
Yeah, and I'll be careful. Keep me honest here on forward-looking statements, Eric. But a movie is a little bit different, actually a very different animal than other potential investments, in that most of your revenue is seen in the first 3 to 5 years. A lot of that comes from a theatrical release and then a distribution deal. So from an exit standpoint, after the 3 to 5 years, there probably is a little bit of residual income, but if you're going to make your money, you make it in those first 3 to 5 years. In terms of a timeline and when all of this takes place, the idea is to raise the money this fall, start pre-production, and then start shooting as soon as the weather turns nice in the spring. Did I answer
Thank you for
that question fully there, Eric?
and I think you towed the line really well too. But we're gonna dig a little bit more into the details. We'll still stay with the big asterisks that there's a lot of uncertainty in early stage investing always. But somebody asked, is it possible for the movie to succeed on a streaming platform, or is this really kind of only in theaters? It's an interesting question.
No, I think that's an interesting question. And I tell you, if you had 10 movie executives here answering that question, I think you'd probably get 11 different answers. It's a little bit of a crapshoot right now. The streamers have been on a big buying spree. They've bought a lot. They've spent a lot of money. They're now trying to figure out, okay, now how do we make money on this? The theaters, I think, are saying we need content. And you've got a number of new streamers that are coming in and saying we need content. So I don't have a great answer for that. I'm not going to make one up. I don't have a great answer for that. What I will say is that our options are all open, and I believe that the strength of a large baseball audience speaks to giving us many different options when it comes time to choosing a distributor and the right distribution deal. I believe that a theatrical release is a really strong way to go. Just an aside there, I think one of the reasons that there haven't been a lot of baseball movies in recent times is there's a belief that, well, baseball fans don't go to movies. And part of the reason is, well, they're out there playing ball. They're watching their kids play ball. They're playing slow pitch softball. They're doing all those things. So they're not going to movies. My belief is that baseball fans may not go to a romantic comedy, but they're going to go to a baseball movie. They will go out of their way to go watch a baseball movie, because you talk to a baseball fan, that's all all you get are movie quotes.
I love that. And baseball just, I mean, it's so deeply revered that it's like DNA for folks who really care about it. And so I imagine there's probably something to be said there. Two pieces that I really want to make sure that people are aware of, and I think this will be a fun discussion here. There's a massive focus in Hollywood, and I happen to just have some, by virtue of living in and around LA, have some friends in the environment, and they complain about the sequel focus of Hollywood. It is so difficult, and I wanted to know if you could tear a little bit into it. But my understanding is it's incredibly difficult to get any producers, supporters, distributors to buy into something that doesn't have a natural second, third, fourth, fifth. You're seeing the sequelization of virtually everything. Can you talk a little bit about that? How that might affect here? Is there the dude is legit too? I'm just kidding. You tell us a little bit of your thoughts.
I think there is that. I do think that that's going to shift, because what studios are trying to do is they're trying to maximize the ROI on their intellectual property. So if we can get 3 movies out of the same basic idea, why not do that? I get it. I think audiences are getting tired of that. And so I think over the next 2-3 years, you're going to see things open up a little bit. In terms of the dude is legit 2 or 3, well, we've got the baseball gods. There could be basketball gods. There could be football gods. There are a lot of great sports stories out there. And I think the baseball gods really lend itself well to an interesting way to tell this story, but also lend itself to what else is out there.
No, I think that's great. And then with our last question here, I think, and don't worry, Lori, we're coming to you next. We still have time. Getting kind of giddy back there. Can you tell us a little bit about what you imagine the actors' strike might have an effect on this film? I'm not sure those who are familiar, but we are going through not only a writers but also an actors' strike here in Los Angeles and more broadly. But there were some arguments in favor of this actually supporting indie films, because I do believe they can work outside of the major distributors. Can you talk a little bit about how you view the actors' right might benefit or potentially negatively affect this film?
I think it's actually going to be a benefit personally. That remains to be seen. There's my disclaimer asterisk, right? but movie production companies can go ahead and make movies and negotiate with talent, with directors, with actors, and writers as part of an interim agreement, is what it's called, through SAG-AFTRA. And essentially, as long as you agree to the terms that are in alignment with their proposal to the producers industry group, they will grant you a waiver, and you can go ahead and do that. I think the other thing that this does is it may open up some really interesting opportunities for talent for us, that if we have money in the bank and have a production schedule and are ready to go, actors may be really anxious to work because they're not going to be working for studios, and there may be a lag time there. So I think we've got an interesting window here, and I choose to believe that it's going to be a positive for us.
Yeah, I think you might be on something there. Obviously, the massive disclaimer that we don't know, but I think you have been, clearly you've thought about this quite a bit, and I think you're onto something there. I also think there's going to be an opportunity where, even these, I think people I think this might have shifted people's focus and thoughts about actors and actresses generally. I think they realize, when you see the data about most of them not being able to afford health insurance, the participants in this film could also be investors in the film as well, the actual on-screen talent. And that cannot be at the 100,000 a pop rate for most of those folks.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
And someone squeaked in one last question. So sorry. Have you sorry, I'm not sure if we want to. Well, let's talk about it. Sure, why not? I'm not sure if that's actually how this works, but have you copyrighted your script?
Yep.
I'm not actually familiar with that.
We're copyrighted. We're all the IP is locked down, so we're in great shape there.
Awesome. That's actually news to me. I'm actually been familiar with that part of the process. Awesome. Okay, that puts us perfectly on time to say thank you so much, Dan, for sharing, calling in from Denver, right?
Yep, just south of Denver and Castle Rock. You bet.
Yeah, just outside in Colorado. So we had all different states represented here. That's pretty fun. I think that's actually one of the really exciting things about working for a platform like this. And so you can go directly to netcapital.com and search Legit Dude, or you can go to this link that I just added back into the chat there. Or of course, you can go directly to netcapital.com/companies/legit-dude, where you can learn more about the offering. You can review more materials. And if you are so inclined, you can smash that invest button. So thank you so much, Dan, for coming on and sharing about what you're building here with the Dude at Legit.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it.
Last but certainly not least, thank you so much for joining us, Lori with HiveSkill. And you still have share screen access if you'd like to as well. Why don't you come on in and tell us about what you're building with HiveSkill?
Okay, great. Thanks, Eric, and thanks for Netcapital for letting us give a demo today. So we're going to talk about HiveSkill. At HiveSkill, we're really changing the future of marketing using emotionally intelligent AI to transform how you connect with customers by personalizing every interaction and really maximizing the impact of messaging. So we're doing this by using consumer data and social knowledge to understand user sentiment and deliver targeted messaging with real deep personalization. Now, traditional marketing techniques are often misguided and wasteful. So by us understanding each individual customer on an individual level, we can really empower marketing teams to send the right message at the right time. Now, I'm sure most of you get emails in your inbox that aren't even relevant, maybe some solar panel messaging and you don't even own a home, or products that you've maybe looked at once before, but it's not something you're ever going to buy. So how do we really tailor that messaging to the consumer without wasting additional marketing dollars? So we're changing this by building and training AI models to understand key information about an individual customer or user. We're well positioned with global marketing spend exceeding $1 trillion, and companies are still relying on using traditional platforms, which really allows HiveSkill to tap into a huge market. So with that, our team is led by experts in MarTech, machine learning, and business growth, which puts us in a position to lead the wave of growth in AI digital marketing and the AI wave that's happening right now. So we're really excited about it. Our digital media partnerships include OpenAI. We've been partnered with them for the past 2 years. We also partnered with HubSpot and Crunchbase, which gives us a competitive edge in developing our integrations. So our technology stack includes AI custom-built applications and custom-built integrations, which I'm going to show you at a high level. It gets a little complicated when we start looking at how everything's integrated, but I can give you an overview here of how everything ties together. So up in the top left screen, you can see data comes into our database. We can connect with any CRM, so HubSpot, Salesforce, etc. It's analyzed and sorted by our AI. Then information and historical data is then fed into individual AI models based on their step in the customer journey. So then based off the goal of the customers or call to action, our natural language processing, NLP, based AI helps to create individual personalized marketing campaigns and messaging. Messages go out, and then as the replies start to come in, our AI is going to analyze those and the customer journey is updated. So there's a lot going on in the screen, how everything's tied together. But I think what's going to really hit this home is to give you guys an example of what an output email looks like. So we've been playing around with this for a while. And when we start off, we're like, okay, we're going to train our AI to have an IQ of 240 in our responses, that's going to know exactly how to respond to these customers. And that doesn't work. So it's very lengthy emails, words that people don't use in natural conversation. So we realized we needed to get a more personalized approach and be able to give our AI different personalities based on each of our clients. So you can see here, this is not something that we're sending out to customers, but what we did is we told our AI, our team is all from Boston, Massachusetts. So we're like, give our AI a personality of a laid back Bostonian. So we can have a little bit of fun of this, where we get made fun of for saying wicked good all the time, and clam chowder, we say chowder, we drop our R's. So here's a quick example of what our AI gave us and how we're able to really craft our prompting to give it the output that we're looking for. So at HiveSkill, we don't want to be just a service. We really want to create a white glove service is how we're naming it. We're tailoring this to each of our specific customers, and we really want to revolutionize how businesses understand and engage with their customers on a personal level. I know you guys can read through that, but if you have any questions.
I think I love this example. I think the Boston accent is one of my favorites. It's just I remember the first time I heard it in person, I was just like, oh, it's even better when it's real. So this is a fun example. Thanks for. And I'm not sure if you had other slides after this you wanted to show, but I
Nope.
could
That was it. Quick
perfect.
overview.
Perfect. Yeah. So thanks for showing that example, and thanks for coming on and telling us about this. I think we've spoken about this a ton. I think this is a really exciting industry. Can you talk a little bit about kind of where you view do you think this is like this application of AI B2B directly into the sales channel? Can you talk a little bit about why you think that's a great tip of the spear?
Yeah, I think it's a great starting point because we're able to collect enough data on people. We use a lot of social platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, anything that's public on the web. So we're able to take that and craft it along with our client messages. So the business, and it's a really easy place for us to start to train the AI. So I think that, these days, a lot of people are either wasting money on marketing to the wrong people, or they have sales reps or internal sales team that are spending too much time researching on people and what they're doing. So if we can condense that, it's going to save companies a lot of money. So I think that's a good place for us to start. Can we expand from there? Definitely, but this is our focus as of right now.
Yeah, and I think being right in the revenue generation space for businesses is a great application. You can point to, hey, we do some things, we provide some value, and it's kind of clear and measurable at the top line, which I think is helpful for incorporating AI. I think people are still trying to figure out how much is it worth, how much does it cost, how much is it worth, and then how do we actually track the returns on that investment in AI. It's obviously you've been in the space for actually before I think this really cool, exciting AI boom. So congratulations on being in AI before it was white hot. Can you talk a little bit about how this renewed or kind of new focus on AI has benefited or potentially can benefit HiveSkill going forward? Or can you talk a little bit, a glimpse into the future of applications for HiveSkill?
Yeah, so we've been at this for 2 years. We were partnered with OpenAI before ChatGPT and all that became mainstream. But I think that coming out and having because AI has been a buzzword. It's like, okay, anyone can say that something is AI, but is there really a model in that language, that processing behind it? So now that ChatGPT has come out, people have been able to use it and work with it. So I think that that really has boosted what we're doing, because now it's more believable on what we're working on and building and the time it takes to develop the technology. So I think, mainstream looking forward, it's only going to, AI is in our world now. Like, it's going to be something that we're always using moving forward. It's just a matter of how do we police it and govern it so that people are using it correctly.
That's a perfect transition to what I imagine other folks might be starting to think about a little bit here, which is the regulatory framework. There's been so much conversation about we need to, kind of be thoughtful about what it can and cannot do. Are we concerned about it displacing individuals at a kind of mass level? Can you talk a little bit about what and again, massive asterisks, we're super uncertain, we're speculating here. But do you have an idea of what you think it'll all kind of shake down to once we say, hey, this is what we're going to allow AI to do? What do you imagine the regulatory framework looks like going forward, at least in the United States?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be some policies put in place. I know they just announced some stuff with the government on how they're going to manage AI in the future. There is going to have to be some overlying policies. As far as an internal company, we want to make sure that we have governing policies in place. So we're sending out the correct message on behalf of our customers. So we're working on that. I think that it can replace some jobs, but I think it's also opening a huge opportunity for new jobs and other people to be able to do more online type work. I mean, they're releasing, if you're following the news, they just released a job for Netflix for a really large salary for someone to operate their AI. So I think it's gonna end up balancing out. It will remove some jobs, but I think it's going to open up a lot of opportunities for new jobs for people to try.
Yeah, I mean, people are so creative and resourceful. As soon as you drop such a powerful tool out there, we're already seeing all these creative applications. When you talk about the kind of the best use case target audience for you, what is kind of like a bread and butter example? And I know you showed the email, which I think was fantastic, but can you talk about other kind of really good use cases? Maybe somebody is running, there's a bunch of business owners on the line here. How could they integrate Hive Skill into their business? And then can you talk a little bit about the impact that having that kind of relational, conversational, AI, how does that improve, kind of open rates, conversion rates, things like that?
Yeah, I think our best fit is for either other companies that are raising funds, so we can really get that personalized messaging out to the investors to get those initial relationships built so we can get people on the phone for them. And then the second use case is going to be smaller companies that are doing B2B transactions. So I think from there, we're definitely going to grow, but that's been our focus as of right now. And I think you had two parts to that question.
I did. In my mind, they connected better, but they were clearly two entirely different conversations. So yeah, that was a great one for best fit and use targeted. The next one was, is there any data that you could share or any like even anecdotal references you could share about the kind of the conversion metrics or open rates or any improvements that come from, hey, this person's clearly talking to me. They're from my region, or they feel like they understand me a little bit better. Can you share anything about what that looks like from a user experience? Any improvements that you could share?
So we do have an exceptionally high open rate on our emails. People do engage with them often. Not sure what I can say in terms of numbers and things like that, but it has taken, I mean, as an average, like email marketing, if you're getting over a 17 to 20% open rate, that's considered good. We have that about tripled. So I think that it definitely speaks to it's working, and people are, they like this when it's not just a generic email coming in. So those are our metrics that we focus on, is click rates, open rates, are we generating the conversions?
Great. Thank you. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. And yeah, I do realize two totally different conversations. Sorry. More good questions coming in. We're going to sneak it in for the last little bit, and then we are going to wrap up on time. So can companies train their own Hive skill model? That's a very interesting question.
That is a good question. I'm not sure, potentially in the future, but I think what we would do is we would work with you to train it for your company.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's some. No, please go ahead.
So I think that, right now we're working on where we can integrate into your CRM and into your system to use our models. So we'll see where it goes from there.
Very cool. Yeah, you have the kind of the mass, the large language models, and you built it out internally, and their data will help improve it. But it's probably more of a licensing thing until maybe down the line, some type of a greater access piece. Okay, great. I've done this in the past, and I think it's actually kind of fun. If you guys are open to it, we have these last 3 minutes, so we could do 1 minute apiece. And we'll go reverse order here. So we'll go Lori, and then we'll Dan, and then we'll finish off with you, Steve. Let's talk about. I like to do closing remarks. I sprung it on you, but I utmost confidence in all of you. Why is now the perfect time to go to netcapital.com and invest directly in HiveSkill? And then we'll do that for each of the companies as we wrap up. But why is now the perfect time to go and invest in HiveSkill, Lori?
Now is a good time to invest in HiveSkill because we're right on the cusp of AI blowing up. So you're getting in on the ground level on a company that has the models built out. We have current customers under our belt. We know what we're doing. And I think it's only going to explode from there. So the early adopters are the ones that usually win.
I love that. And everybody says, oh man, I would have gotten in early on X or early on Y. And here's a chance when we obviously see AI as a big piece of the future, and you have a chance to get in early. So not an investment recommendation on my part, but Lori, I think you make a good point. Awesome. Thank you so much for that data. And thank you so much for those questions for Lori. Thank you so much for your answers from HiveSkill. Dan, why don't you tell me, why is now the perfect time to go to netcapital.com and invest in Do It Is Legit?
Yeah, now's a perfect time because we have the opportunity to go talk to talent. We don't need to raise the entire amount and have all the money in the bank to start this. If we can get into the six figures, even the low six figures, we become a real project in the minds of talent. So we would go find a name and get them attached to the project. And that then starts the big money flowing in. So now's a great time. Your money's actually kind of amplified if you invest now.
Thank you so much for that, Dan. And there happen to be some critical talent right down the street here that are floating around Hollywood. So it does feel like there's some pretty good confluence of events for all the companies here.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you for that. And we're not least, we're going to bring it home strong here, Steve. Why is now the perfect time to go to Netcapital and invest in Invicta Water?
Yeah, it's the perfect time right now because we are just waiting to go, right? This funding is for commercialization of the technology. We don't have to prove the tech works. We don't have to do any other experimentation. It's get it in place. And the EPA is starting the regulation. So this is imminent. The litigation it's going crazy all around the world, how much liability the companies are going to have to get into. So industry wants a solution. People want a solution. We're ready to grow. It's the right thing to do. We're really excited that we have an opportunity to really grow the business by doing the right thing. And that's really exciting for us.
Dang, safe, clean drinking water. I imagine that's something we can all get on board with.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for that last little bit. Okay, we're going to end on time. Thank you so much for all of your phenomenal questions. I'd like to take this time to, one more thank you for our attendees, but also, of course, for our panelists. Thank you so much, Steve, with Invicta Water, Dan with the Do It Is Legit, and Lori with HiveSkill. As always, each of these companies are actively raising capital on the Netcapital platform. I already added the links to each into the chat feature on Zoom, excuse me. You can click any of those and go directly to the offering pages, or you can visit Netcapital to search for each of these questions. For each of these companies. I'm starting to unwind at the end here, sorry. So you can go ahead and learn more about each of these companies, and you can invest. And of course, this has been recorded. So if you missed something, or if you know somebody who should have been here, but they couldn't make it, please feel free to share the link to our YouTube channel. I just added that into the chat, or you can just go to YouTube and search Netcapital. But we're going to go ahead and we have recorded this. We'll upload that shortly there, so you can catch anything that you have missed, and you can definitely share it with folks who happen to not be available at this time. So thank you so much for everybody who attended. Thank you for your great questions, and seriously, thank you to our panelists for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone. Thanks. Bye now.